And there we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Empowered Podcast, the podcast where we highlight the Black community here at UCR. And today I have a really special guest here, Professor Rodgers, the man who needs new introductions, but I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Victor Rodgers. I'm one of the founding professors for the Department of Bioengineering for UCR. We started back in 2006 and set up the program. There's actually only four of us back in those days. And look at us now. We're doing pretty well. We have lots of graduate students. Some of our lots of undergraduates. Some of our students are already professors at UCLA and places like that. So yeah, here we are. So
That's amazing.
good. Thanks for inviting me, Wayman, by the way. Appreciate
Oh,
it.
oh, no, thank you for coming. It's always puts a smile on my face when I can get someone to come and have a conversation with me, no matter who it is. And I love that. And I hope that we can do more of these in the future if you're okay with that.
I'm good with it. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, well, let's get started. I always start with a background and experience kind of thing. So let's talk a little about that. How did you start your academic journey, right? How did you go? How did you pick your major, and how did you go from that to a grad school to attempt eventually become a professor?
Yeah, that's a bit of a long program concept, but I'll go over the details with you. I have a twin brother who's a theoretical physicist at the University of Iowa.
Oh,
And so
okay.
when we were growing up, we were always doing, I mean, naturally doing science, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's probably true for most kids until they get a little older maybe, but we were always just doing science. And so uh, when we were really sort of in a poor a household. We weren't poor, but we were, we probably poorer than we thought we were. But we were nevertheless not really exposed to things like engineering and physics and things like that. So I remember my dad was the editor of the major black newspaper in St. Louis. My mom was a nurse. She worked nighttime. And so they would just, they saw that we had that drive to do science. And so I remember my mom and dad, they scraped some money together. They get us like a little science kit, like that for Christmas and stuff like that. And of course, I'm a twin, so we never got our gift for ourselves. We always had to share it,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, I
But
get that.
nevertheless, we kind of grew up and we got towards we went to Jesuit high school too, and which was really important because it kind of helped us with our education base. And then when we got ready to go to college, we still really didn't know what we wanted to do, and but we knew we wanted to do some type of science. And I remember wanting to do something for the environment or health back in those days, but I thought
Mhm.
engineering would be cool. And I was actually going to sign up for engineering technology because more words meant it must be bigger. And
Mhm.
I remember my counselor told me, no, you actually probably want to just be an engineer because the technologists kind of work for the engineers. I said, oh,
Mm.
okay. They signed me up, and then I'm glad he did that. And then my brother wanted to stick with just pure physics, so he went into physics. Nevertheless, that's how we got there. So I'm driven to do research the whole time, right? And
Mhm.
I majored in chemical engineering. All my degrees are in chemical engineering, actually,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
primarily because I didn't know anything about what was going on in terms of those curriculums. But when I looked at the chemical engineering curriculum, and I was told that that's chemical engineering is probably the hardest thing you can do, and to do things like health and environmental or whatever I was going to plan on doing, I had to know chemistry, which I didn't really like, but I knew I had to know it to do what I wanted to do. So I chose chemical engineering, which I'm actually glad I'm doing. I did. So,
Oh,
and
that's
then from
really
there, of
cool.
course, I got my degrees. Actually, um, I wanted to go to grad school, but my GPA wasn't that high back in those days. And so I just went straight to work at an oil company. A Gulf oil company was bought by Chevron later on. And I realized there's no way I'm going to do this. I got to get back at it.
Mm.
I was kind of driven to go back to grad school. So I started taking courses at nighttime and simultaneously I was working. And then I also started I recognized that in those days, and it's pretty much like that today, even that in my community, I was in the uh, Pittsburgh area. I started out in Philadelphia, but I went to the Pittsburgh area just to keep the story short.
Mhm.
And I realized that, there's not that many people of color in science. And so, in fact, I went to the Pennsylvania Junior Academy of Sciences program, which is 700 students from all over Pennsylvania to go to, and I think I saw only two students there that were Black at the time. And I said, we got to do something about this. So I started with the help of the National Technical Association. I remember I started what's called the Charles Drew Science Program, and it lasted about 30 years. Maybe even still be going on, where we would get students from the inner city, and we worked with the local YMCA's, and I remember the Hill House was another place in the inner city. And we would help train those students to, in a 12-week period, to get a project where they could actually present it at the Pennsylvania Junior Academy of Sciences. And so, yeah. So I was very happy about that. And it took a lot of effort. We had to get actually Gulf Oil Company to help sponsor that. And so, and like I said, after I left Pennsylvania, they still kept it going in some form. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it might actually still be going today, but maybe in a different format. But yeah, it's called the Charles Drew Science Program. I was pretty proud of that. But then I need to go back to grad school, and that's what I was doing. I had all this outreach going on, and I was working too, so I couldn't do it anymore. I had to take a leave of absence on something,
Mm-hmm.
and it was my work. So I took a leave of absence from Gulf Oil Company and went to work, finish my master's degree at Pittsburgh full time. And that's where I worked with the School of Medicine with my chemical engineering degree to look at some artificial blood vessel working with kind of tying to human blood vessels. There was an issue with hyperplasia and why is it occurring in these blood vessels. And so I did some mathematical analysis that showed that it wasn't because of the mechanical properties that people were arguing, but it was probably due to the biochemical processes that took place. So, in a big summary for that, summarize it quickly.
Oh no, that
And
was perfect.
go ahead.
That was perfect. That was perfect.
Yeah.
And I kind of it's funny. So it seems like you have a family that's really based in like the science field, right? Am I
My
right in
what?
that? You
My
have your family is like is based in the science field. You have a
No,
lot
my
of family
dad's an
members who
editor
do.
of a Black newspaper, so he didn't know much about science,
Oh,
and but we did recognize the importance of Black people rising up and not letting barriers get in our way. And
mhm,
we saw a lot of that. I mean, you see it in a lot now, but nothing like you did back in the 60s and 70s. And even
mhm,
then, I'm sure before that it was worse, but that's what I saw. And then my mom was a nurse, so it was
it's
she was very busy. She was a nurse at nighttime, so yeah, we didn't see a lot of science growing up,
oh,
except
okay,
for
I
what we
see.
brought to the table. To be
Yeah,
honest,
so how did you go in that pathway? Because it seems that you were always interested from the start. So how did you find a love for it or an interest in it?
like
Did you
I
have it?
said, I think as kids we kind of always are, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think my parents they were like they were just saw it coming, so they were just throwing science stuff at us. They bought
Mm,
us this we were downstairs in the basement in the house, and everybody else was upstairs, and they would throw us these
the kids you say?
young people science encyclopedia, which is a giant encyclopedia and then we had another science encyclopedia. Actually, I still have them to this day, but uh, we would just open them up and start looking at stuff, and then we'd be building stuff like at home. Like our parents would had friends who would bring us radios, so we were doing electronics long before you were born, brother. Playing around with stuff long before the transistor. We were
Mm-hmm.
working on resistors and doing stuff in the grade school, and people would bring us their radios to fix and things like that. So we were just all up in it, But yeah,
That's really cool. For me, the people who watch this probably know, but I come from a family of musicians, right? So when I was young, they threw instruments in my face. So guitars, basses, microphones, like clarinets and saxophone. And that was the thing I was going to do for my career for a long time. I was like, I want to be a professional saxophone player. I'm going to go to school, be a music major, and I'm going to play on the biggest stage. But COVID happened, so I couldn't do that no more because I wanted to perform. I didn't want to teach or I didn't want to produce music in the sense of going to the studio and do all the editing stuff. I just wanted to play and perform. That's all I wanted to do. And the way I found my love through science was actually a bunch of YouTube videos. So so I was watching a bunch of people like William Osmond or Now Red, and I was like, wow, how do I be like them? And most of them had electrical engineering degrees. So I was like, okay, then that means I need to get one too. And then For me, the thing that solidified it for me was when I went to community college, MSJC. I had this really good physics professor. I think his name was Professor Capiteo, and he was also an electrical engineer. And he really showed me that there's a love for like sciences and physics and whatnot. And that kind of sparked like the light in me to like kind of pursue this career path. Did you have anyone like that, like a mentor or someone that really like put you on this path or inspired you to be who you are today?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's uncountable. I'm almost scared. I'm gonna miss somebody. I'm gonna Mr. Lee in fifth grade.
Mhm.
You know, we were doing so much stuff that he had a little science, excuse me, had a little science showcase just so we could show our science, but made everybody else do something too. It was always somebody who was helping somebody out, and we recognize that, and so we're always going to give back. And that's what we were talking about when we were getting older. We have to do our part as well. So
Mhm.
that's what we were doing. So yeah, we
Uh,
always had somebody. I mean, friends of my dad's. I told you my parents would have people want to get something fixed, and some people just want to get rid of their old radios, and we desolder parts out of it and put it in little resistors in different places, things like that. So yeah.
I get you. I get you. So you also mentioned, and I've experienced experiences too, and I actually think it's a common experience between most Black people who go to like do STEM work or really just go to university in general, is that you don't really see a lot of other Black people in the seats next to you, right? It's really common for you to be the only one or like the only other, like only like one or two other people there. So with that said, did you have any big challenges while going to school as a Black person that you don't mind sharing?
I'm just what's his name? Neil deGrasse Tyson says that we got to pay taxes if you're going to be Black and go into sciences. And part of
Mhm,
that is dealing with the extra that's emerging. I mean, you're going to always be questioned about what you do. You got to bring it to a high level. And yeah, don't come half stepping because uh, somebody's going to try and wake up and try and do something to you for that. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, when I graduated with my PhD, I mean, there were some African Americans who had PhDs prior to. I mean, one of the first physicists in the world in the United States. I'm sorry, was a Black guy
mhm,
in the United States, and but we're still rare. And when I graduated with my PhD in '89, only 5 Blacks in the country got a PhD in chemical engineering. So uh, that number is not as high as you'd expect it to be here now, but there was only 5 of us, and I think that included a few African folks. So I'm scared to go check because there may have been. I know one of my friends. She was one of us, but we knew a couple of other people who had gotten their PhDs before us. But yeah, and I know the
mhm,
one of my best friends is Dr. Lilia Abram. Check her out. She owns a company called Peer.
mhm.
She was the first Black woman with a PhD in chemical engineering, and she graduated in 71 or 72 from the University of Iowa.
Oh,
Yeah, so
wow.
but she started her own company. She actually started Peer Africa too. She actually was doing some work and went to Africa and recognized that the shanty homes was not tolerable. So she actually built what's called these eco homes. Everybody's trying to mimic it now, and she
Mhm.
established the societal programs for those people as well. And this was in South Africa, and you know, did lots of stuff for them. So tens of thousands of homes like that. So she did with her company. So yeah, so she was before us, but see, I was glad. And only reason I knew about her is because I happened to be talking to one of the older faculty at University of Iowa. I was originally a professor at the University of Iowa,
Mhm.
and he was talking about how this Black woman was a dynamo, and I'm like, what? And so I looked her up. Back then we had to look at the cards and the
Mm.
paper stuff back then. I found her. So again, she's a good friend of mine, but she's yeah, check her out, man. Lilia Abrams. She's inspiring.
Okay, I check it
Usually
out
she comes
after
to
for sure.
she's gonna come visit us. Maybe I'll have her if you guys visit NSBE with you guys, because she always comes and gives talks. Yeah. She
Oh,
was a
that'd be
winner.
perfect, yeah. I would
Yeah.
love to have her speak for us,
Yeah.
especially be one of the first. I mean, I think that's amazing, and I think it's cool that you know someone like that. I
Yeah.
think that's amazing. But yeah, I always noticed that like the amount of that you don't see a lot of African Americans getting these in these PhD like positions or like really in these school positions. That's part of the reason why I want to start this podcast.
Yeah,
So
I
I
mean,
can start
I'm the
highlighting
only
that.
black professor in engineering.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah,
So because
not
the one,
even they've tried, but they all went off to different places, right? Yeah, so
yeah, I noticed that I was trying to when I was going to start this podcast, I was going to email all like the black engineering professors, and then come to find out, you're the only one.
yeah, we had two others recently. We did a special effort to get them here, but one went to USC, one went to Berkeley. So
Mhm.
yeah, highly talented people. Yeah, so yeah,
That's good, that's good. Well, I'm glad I got you, though. I'm glad I got
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Okay. So, I know you're a big researcher here, so let's talk a little bit about that. Could you tell me a little bit about B2K? Like, what is it?
Oh, the B2K, that's my research group name. It stands for Biotransport and Bioreaction Kinetics Group.
Mhm,
And it's really, you can see, it's born from my chemical engineering background.
mhm,
What I found was that when I was doing research at the University of Iowa, uh, I was doing a lot of work with the School of Medicine and at the University of Iowa. And so we were looking at trying to make bioartificial pancreas, stuff like that. And I realized we're just kind of doing chemical engineering, but we're applying it to biological systems. And
mhm,
so, because I already learned, I knew from just from graduate study that these things like transport phenomena and kinetics, they really apply broadly. They don't apply just to chemical oil companies and things like that, or chemical processes that are for making plastics and things like that. So I just called my group the Biotransport and Bioreaction Kinetics Group, and so we focus on topics that are pretty much are interesting to me. It
mhm,
doesn't really go beyond that. And we have a lot of collaboration with the School of Medicine faculty. We've had even stronger ones in the past. In fact, I'm in my endowed chair is associated with the fact that we did so much work with the School of Medicine that they gave the endowed chair. The Jaeger, Jacques S. Jaeger Senior endowed chair was for doing that work with them. So I'm the inaugural professor for that. And so with the B2K group, we've done stuff from working here at the university for looking at mitochondrial growth to right now we're looking at work with a device where we have a membrane-based device to remove water off of cerebral tissue when it's damaged. I mean, it may get a little gory, but
mhm,
when someone has a head injury or may have a stroke, they may have to remove part of their skull to allow for the brain to expand because it's swelling up from edema, and which is excess water. The tissues are sort of signaling itself and may be confused, but it's generating more fluid in the tissue than it needs. And if you kept the cranial cap on the skull, you would have compression of the brainstem, which would, of course, kill you. So oftentimes people do a craniectomy to prevent that. And then one of our colleagues, Dr. Binder, asked when he first got here about 2011 or 12, so how do we measure pressure in the brain when the skull cap is open during a craniectomy? And I just remember sort of having a premonition from God saying, like, why don't we just get rid of the water? And so I'm already done research in membrane processes. So he's like, what? And I say, yeah, I think we can pass on, make a continuous flow system with hydrogels and pass some hollow fiber system with concentrated osmolite like albumin through it. And it should be able to withdraw fluid off that brain. And it turns out it works pretty well. And so now we're looking at that, done it with mice, we've done it with rats. We're looking at work with Walter Reed Army Institute of Research now over in Maryland. They're helping us with a pig study because I think they want to use that for soldiers in case that kind of situation occurs where they may have to need a craniectomy or maybe have an open skull injury. So
wow.
yeah, so we're doing that, and that's I'm pretty proud of that work. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like great work. That sounds like revolutionary work to me. How long has, B2K been
I think
around
everybody
for?
in academia is doing revolutionary work though.
Well,
I mean,
true, that's
when it get
true,
tight
but
enough in your world, so I don't want to diss nobody, but we're all doing it. Yeah.
That's true. Just to me,
Yeah,
I just whenever I talk to like a researcher, a professor like you, hearing it for the first time, it's like, oh my god, it's amazing, you know. And hopefully people at home get that too, because I mean, it happens more so UCR. We talk to these like really high end researchers like yourself doing like amazing things, and I know it's probably common, but for someone who just walking around campus, they might not or might not even know what they're even doing.
yeah.
But I think
Oftentimes
that.
the undergrads are separated from what faculty are really doing, because they don't really know the depth of the research. You're looking at classes, and that's pretty much that's the basic stuff, right? So we really want to
Mhm,
find out what faculty are doing. Go and send them an email. Look at their website, like you saw mine. It's a B2K group,
mhm,
and email them and knock on the door, or ask somebody else about possibly working with them as an undergraduate, because that actually changes your opinion of what's going on. Because coursework is just what it is. It's not, but it's a basis for what you need to do. But
mhm.
sometimes you don't appreciate why you're doing it. But if you start looking at what the research is, you're going to get very current with what goes on, and that'll be very helpful. I've had about, I mean, I'd say about 130 undergraduates working with my research team over the years, and some of them go on to be pretty effective. In fact, today I had an undergrad who was in my group when I first came to UCR, and then he finished his PhD with me ultimately. And today he told me he just got tenure at University of Texas Health Center. He's a professor in neurosurgery actually, but he just got tenure today, which is impressive. So he
Oh,
graduated from our research group, and just give you a sense of the amount of time it takes. He got his PhD in 2012 or 13, and then he had to do a postdoc after that, and then he went to work in industry, work for, I mean, not industry, but Texas, and it takes about 7 years after that to get tenure, which is a long road, right? But I was just happy to get the text message today.
that's
That
you know,
my PhD student got his it was a professor now,
I,
and a tenured professor. So that was really nice to see.
I love hearing success stories like that. I love
Yeah.
hearing success stories like that. That's amazing.
UCR grads, so they're blowing it up, man.
They are. I from all the people I talked to, we're doing some really amazing things here, and like yourself, we're doing some really amazing things here, and I just love hearing about it. I love hearing about it, and that's one of my goals for this year. I want to start doing research. I just finished an internship for Whirlpool, and it was pretty cool. I liked it, but I got a little bit stale a little bit because like my NSBE and other responsibility I had to do a remote position. So most of the work I was doing was a PCB design, which is fun, but all I was doing was just a schematic work. I would make the schematic. I would read through the data sheet. I would they would give me like the conditions and like specs that this thing needs to have for the microwave or like the wash machine to work. And then I send it in and they approve it or they send it back and say I don't like that, do it again. And that was basically my internship. And for some people I know that's cool and all, but I get bored really easily. Like, I couldn't like I couldn't do a fast food job again because I either just making the same food over and over again or just taking and giving money to people that gets boring really fast, and I can only do it for like 2 or 3 months before I'm like, yeah, I want to quit. you
It's a
know?
it's a it's a it's a means to an end. You need to make some money, so
Yeah.
and take care of whatever you need to do. But yeah, you might want to consider being a professor, because you ain't gonna get bored now. And we got
No.
enough range to do a lot of stuff. I mean, you're gonna get bored if you choose to be, but
Mhm.
with the literature, the whole issue of training students is so exciting, and seeing people do well and get better than where they were before they met you is an exciting opportunity. But more importantly, you're also helping to make the world a better place, because you're bringing in new technologies, which hopefully are positive, right?
Mhm.
For others as well. So consider that. You may not notice, but Brooklyn Brooks Young works in my group. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm excited about what she's going to do with her research topic pretty soon.
I remember we were talking about that, and actually, I wanted to bring that up, like, because you give work to NSBE members, like Brooklyn. She's our treasurer. For those of you at home who don't know yet, she's the one who handles all money at the finances one out that. So she works right under you. Do you think we can talk a little about her? Do you know anything about her work?
Do I know about her work? Yeah, of course I know about it. She's working on my project. We're looking at so it was another African American professor. He actually was in our School of Medicine, and he's a biomedical scientist, but he moved to Howard to become a dean
Mm,
the last few years. But he has a drug called Neuregulin that actually helps improve tissue during trauma. For instance, if you could put the, we found that we could put this neuregulin on the tissue after damaged brain, after damage to the brain, and we actually want to see if we can control that. So I have Brooklyn to control it, though we need to keep it so that it delivers at an appropriate time to the tissue. And so we are looking at hydrogels to control the delivery of that neuregulin, and that's one of the topics that we have Brooklyn working on right now. So that's what she's working on. So yeah, she's
that's really
a
cool.
bit overworked because she's doing a lot of NSBE stuff too.
She
But
is. Yeah, she's a
this is just
trooper.
summertime when things get heavy, man. So but
No,
I think she's got what it takes. Yeah.
no, she's a trooper. She's been really helpful for me
Yeah.
for for this summer, like getting the budgeting and like getting like all the money stuff handled, fundraising too. But she tells me all the time, Wayman, that's too much money. You gotta spend less. Wayman, that's too much money. You gotta spend less. It's funny because you
Okay.
just told me that the other night. Because I do know that I think programs usually cost the most money aside for like the conferences we do. And but I know mine's gonna cost a little bit more money because I know we talked about this off camera, but I'm one of the changes I wanted to make, or one of the additions I should say, because I don't want to lose the career side, is I want to add a more technical aspect, right? Because NSB is mostly focused on like career development, like but like how to networking, professional development, how to present yourself, resume building, stuff like that. And I think, for me, I think that's all well good, but I feel like that if you graduate from a UCR with a bachelor's degree, but you can't do any work or you don't know any technical aspects, I don't think you're gonna be able to hold a job. And I know that's gonna be rare because I know that at UCR, again, for those who aren't here, as an engineering student, you have to do a senior project. So I know that's where you would build those technical skills. But I think this also be a good addition to that to help you prepare for it, you know? So you don't have your feet hover above the water. Because I hear a lot of stories of people, like, struggling or having, like, sleepless nights trying to get their projects done. And it's fair because it's one like the first
It's
major
gonna be like
engineering
that no
things we
matter
do.
what. No matter how much
Well,
you plan, you're gonna have those. So
no, you're right, you're right.
get
I'm
ready
doing
for
a
it. Yeah.
You're right, but at least you can make it a little bit easier, you know? You're right, 'cause,
Yeah.
I'm starting a drone
Don't
team.
plan on them. That's right.
Yeah, exactly,
Try to
exactly.
minimize number of sleepless nights.
Exactly, exactly. I wanna minimize it because, that's kinda I will agree that is does come with the territory of engineering, but I wanna, like, minimize it or at least prepare for, like, ease them into, like, the whole thing, ease them into it.
Yeah.
Because it is a tough field for most. You're always gonna have challenges no matter where you go, you know? I'm an E major, so I'm always gonna sing praises to EE, how hard it is. But everyone has their challenges and whatnot. Uh, but back to the research thing, um, from all the research stuff you're doing, what is something that you feel is gonna have the most impact on, like, the field of, bioengineering or chemical engineering and on society? Where do you see your work going when at the end stage?
No, you don't really know where your work is going. People are always working on stuff, and all of a sudden it becomes important 30 years later, right? You've
Mm,
seen that, right? Like,
mhm,
oh
yeah, I
man, you
seen
got to
that, yeah.
call on this person who done doing work on, asteroids coming towards the planet. Like, and so it's you just do your best with what you're doing. You know, some of my proudest work is doesn't have any uh, direct application at this point at all, but it's some of the stuff that we've done on the side that actually made a big difference in critical understanding of like how the crowded proteins behave, things like that. So yeah, but you do it, and then I've noticed that sometimes you're looking at papers 100 years old, right?
Mhm.
And so you just put this stuff out there, publish it, and then be honest, get it, be as thorough as possible, and then let it speak for itself. Because somebody bumps into them what they need, That's how it works. I mean that's one of the reasons why Walter Reed Army Institute called us is because they saw our work and they're like, hey, we need to use that for our work with our soldiers. Can you collaborate with us on that? So yeah,
That's
that's how it works,
amazing.
man. Just put it out there. Have some faith in
Okay.
yourself. It's hard though. I mean, and young people need to know that, that don't go away where you wondering if it's worth it, should I be doing it all? We go through that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you just fight through it, keep that hope alive because that makes a difference. Push it out there, get your work done, and don't give up on yourself because you don't even know what the world can do with it, until you get it out there.
I get you. Well, I have a question then. How do you know if your work is worth pursuing as a researcher? Is it just would you just do it for like, oh, I'm curious about something, I want to get more knowledge, or is it, oh, potentially, like you said, that this is going to have bigger implication later? Because that is really common in engineering or just science in general, where someone's researching something and at the start they don't know what kind of application it's going to have, but then 30, 40 years down the line they realize, oh, this is a perfect way for us to do X thing. So how do you know if a research is worth pursuing, or do you just do it for like pure curiosity and just knowledge in academia?
So you don't really know. So
Hmm.
you want to know, but you don't. And so you're kind of like separating the difference between engineering and science.
Hmm.
Scientists is going to do it because it's cool, right?
Yeah.
An engineer tends to want to do it because it has a practical application. But when you get up into our world, like up into the graduate level, PhD level world, the academic component of engineering could be a bit more far-fetched. It's like we
Hmm.
want to, do some really fancy stuff, right?
Hmm.
But at the same time, it may also be pragmatic, like for instance, our device for treatment of edema for humans and animals is something that's pragmatic. But so you got to be prepared to just enjoy what you're doing because
Hmm.
you don't want to be like, what does the world need? Because that's going to be very superficial.
Hmm.
And it's always tell people to be driven by your work where your heart is. These things we do, they don't have immediate gratification. Some people are developing stuff. Like I said, it made this. We look at their work now and say, oh man, they were right 30 years later, right?
Hmm.
If you look back at all the stars of folks you thought were we brag about nowadays, like even Einstein, you know, um, his work was he was nobody cared about that. People fought against it, thought it was crazy, so we just put it out there, right? And so
Hmm. So it seems to me that you do it because you enjoy it and you put it out there.
yeah, you do it because you enjoy it because it's and you want to make sure it's as thorough as possible. Once you enjoy,
Hmm.
it's just enjoy learning too, man. It's like
That's
it's
true.
but and making something happen and finding out how it behaves and what makes something work and is it functional? Can you make it apply to something? That kind of stuff are really important driving factors for doing good research.
Hmm.
Research at the industrial level, most of the PhDs work in industry. And
Hmm.
so they're going to be doing more of a pragmatic aspect of it. Yeah, we know that that oscillator is really cool, but we want to apply it to making something like flow for these devices that are remote or something, that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of range for research in terms of scientific research that's out there. So people shouldn't be looking at a single lab and say, "Oh, that's what they do in research. I'm gonna go back to McDonald's."
Hmm.
You need to look at and realize that things are a lot. A lot of stuff going on that we got going on wasn't just like molded by the rocks, right? We had humans were involved in that stuff, right? And a lot of it was hard work. And if all you even look at some of the like the you heard the story about this guy who developed the blue LED, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
He almost lost his job, pulling that thing together, and he had to work like, in the trenches and make it work. And when he finally made it work, he made his company billions. But I'm not sure he got much more out of that. But still, it worked out, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, you do your thing, man. You got a story like that for everything we looking at though and dealing with.
Well,
So
then I have another question for you. You briefly mentioned on it because it's something that I didn't realize until you just mentioned it. the differences between like a researcher and an engineer. Are there any is there's like a different mindset to how you approach problems as opposed to a research and engineer? Because you're both, aren't you?
I'm an engineer. Yeah, I'm a professor in engineering, so
Mm-hmm.
we do research. When we get into research, yeah, as an engineer, like if I'm working for an engineer at uh, say wherever you're interested in,
Mm-hmm.
at Google or something, I'm going to be, well, not even Google's not a good example because they almost do academic level stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
say a company who's just focused on like their company, like you know, uh, like Medtronics, for instance. They
Okay.
might
Yeah.
be focused on, I want this device to work, and so they're going to do the engineering associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
At the academic level, you're saying, hey, we might be able to, modify something if we do the following, right? And it may not be something a company could ever invest in the next 10, 15 years, right? And
Mm.
so it may just be a very general topic, or maybe a topic that has some potential, but it takes a lot of, and on the back of the envelope, it might work. And so we may want to look at it that way. So a scientist, though, at the academic level might just look at, for instance, I mean, this, and I don't want to just make a distinction because if you come into our department in bioengineering, we see we're doing both science and even in my lab, we're doing
Mm-hmm.
both science and we're doing engineering in bioengineering and in many of the areas in which you might be looking at as well, even electrical engineering. We
Mm-hmm.
might be looking at different types of chemical materials, for instance, and how much they impact charge carrying factors and things like that, which may not have an immediate benefit to an engineered project. So that's what I was saying. But if you're going to chemistry major,
Mm-hmm.
so you don't really have to justify why you're looking at something from a
Mm.
practical perspective. Or a physicist, my brother works on black holes and stuff like that. You ain't got to explain how a company gonna benefit from that.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I guess at least yet.
Yeah, yeah. You're gonna
That's
make
true.
there ain't gonna be nobody around for that conversation
I
that
guess
we
you're right,
know
huh?
when they do come up with that. Yeah. So
I
yeah.
get you. I never thought about that before. That's a really interesting perspective.
So if you're curious, you're really curious, you're interested in your science is driven, you might find yourself driven, you might have a practical reason why you're driven. That's more towards an engineering aspect of it than just like why are we rotating that way and not the other way around the sun? That kind of question
Mm-hmm.
emerges where it may not be a direct benefit. It might be, it might make anti-gravity, or I don't know, but
I get you.
it's just
One
not
day.
necessarily something that's uh, justifiably obvious from an engineering perspective.
That's okay.
It's
I
getting
see.
murky up here, man.
Okay, okay, I see.
It's getting
Okay.
murky up here.
Last question on this topic, then we move on. You mentioned that you mentored like over 100 students, and some of them are PhD students, even have really great success stories. How do you go about your mentor mentoring process? How do you ensure that these students are like prepared for the challenges of bioengineering and like beyond that, like even like the professional world?
For the graduate level, I mean, for the undergrads are getting trained formally anyway, right? So
Mm-hmm.
their experience in my lab is really comes down to what they can put into it. You give them something, and are usually working with my graduate students,
Mm-hmm.
and so therefore they may benefit from that perspective. The graduate student's a different thing. You don't want to have graduate students coming out who are not ready. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and we have a sense of what it means to be ready. So we work very hard with master's and PhD students to get them prepared for what they want to deal with in the world. And again, we know that some people come in with a little more hands-on, like don't want to really do a mathematical aspect of it, but more to do like a chemical aspect of things. And so we have to sort of gauge which direction the research is going relative to their ability to do that work
Mm-hmm.
in that direction. So we kind of focus on that too. So it's just
I
like everybody, you got to pay attention to everybody, you know, differently.
I get you. I get you. That's something that I had to learn a little bit too about research. I haven't, like I said, I haven't done it yet, but I had I just last quarter I had a professor called Ran Chen. I don't know if you know him, but he's he had a course in electromagnetism, and he's doing research in spintronics. And electromagnetism math is like really difficult. It was a it was a really hard class for me to get. I spent nights trying to figure that stuff out. I got 2 textbooks, and I read them front to cover at least twice or 3 times. And then and I was thinking to myself, "When am I ever going to use this math? We have machines and computers that does this for us. This is insane." And then I go to his office hours, and then just and I think I caught him out work on one of his research projects on one of his spintronics, where he was doing a bunch of crazy math, the same stuff we saw in the class, and I was like, "What is this for?" And I can't remember the exact reason for it, but he was trying to figure out something to use this. And it was funny too, because in movies you see like the chalkboard, the whiteboard, like filled with math and numbers and symbols, and I thought that was a joke. I didn't know that was real until I went to his office hours, and it was all over the place. And so I do so and he really instilled in me that it's really important, especially if you're doing high level research math, that you have this mathematical concept down. I know it's a bit off topic, but it was
I mean,
something that
you got bullet trains and stuff. They ain't running off that stuff you read in your undergrad text. I
no,
mean,
they
the
were.
reality of it is that you're still only getting a taste
Mhm.
of what goes on. And, yeah, we have computers to do evaluation for data, but a computer don't do no more than what you taught it to. If you have no
Mhm.
insight, you can't tell it to do anything. And so and that's computers are always based on what previous people did in the first place, right?
Right.
So just be mindful. I mean, and you're talking about electricity and magnetism, like that's oh that's I don't know, that's sci. At the undergraduate level, like I said, my brother's a theoretical physicist. He started showing me functionals and stuff where I'm using multiplication, division, dyadic products. He's showing me a rectangle with a dot in it. That's an operator. I'm like, he said, oh yeah, we have to use this to describe the three-dimensional gravitational forces that are associated with the universe, right? Because
Mhm.
it's all 1D as far as we're concerned, but the real gravitational fields are three-dimensional, and it's just like amazing amount of stuff goes on. And so just take your people think that because they hit college, don't do that. You know, you don't. You're getting a good taste of what it might be, but think about things that have been done and why we have airplanes flying and things like that. I mean, you can't pick it up in a textbook and make an airplane fly,
No, yeah, you're right.
not an undergrad textbook. And so, yeah, keep in mind what you already know goes on, you know, and what you need to do to make things work in reality. Like, it's like all your podcast equipment, man, that ain't nothing. You ain't gonna
I
throw that
get
together after you read a few textbooks. That's gonna take some experience, right?
I get you. I get you. But it's okay. I don't got no crazy podcast equipment. I just have this cool mic. That's it.
That mic right there is a lot going on in that microphone.
I only have it because back during like when COVID was around, when I was still a music major, it went from performing or have your playing test in person to recording yourself and sending it in. So I needed something that I need an arm so I can play into it and the recording and send it for a grade and whatnot. That's the only reason why I have
Well,
this.
it's pretty cool though.
Oh,
There's a
thank
lot of
you.
engineering in that thing.
There is, and that's another thing that kind of got me into engineering, because I really loved learning how stuff worked. Because you're right, because especially with rise AI and like all that computer whatever, it can only really do what other people have already done. You can't ask it to do anything new because they won't know, or it's going, or at the very best it's going to give you a wrong answer, right? So
Insight comes from people.
so that was one of the things that I mentioned during one of the programs I'm doing is this quarter. I'm having like a how to study effectively, because I feel like most students study the material, but they don't do it well. Because I see people who study for a final, a midterm, or a quiz for like 4 to 5 hours and they ace it, and I see some people who study for like 20 or 30 hours and they still fail it. And so I wanted to kind of, and I can't obviously I can't really stop that from happening, but I wanted to like give more advice to prevent that from happening. so you can study however much you need and still get the best score. And one of the sections I had was on AI and whether you should use it to study. From my perspective, I didn't say whether you should or shouldn't use it. I gave it more of like a pro and con thing. And one of the cons I gave to it, especially in terms of like engineering and like more coding side, it can't do anything new. And then also too, you're not necessarily learning that information, and you're not going to the struggle to learn that information. And I feel that's a really important part of like academic and engineering, because not like you said, nothing about it is going to be easy. That's going to get put in your head. Because one of the things that really resonated with me was when I took a linear algebra class, and he said that if you ever go to your class and you feel like you don't know what's going on, that is normal. That is really normal. It's likely that someone else is also just like you, and it's okay not to know what's going on. But it's good to it's important to recognize that, but it's also important to do something about that. Whether that's going to office hours, textbook, on independent learning, whatever. But let's get back on track. I don't know. I have a
I can tell you a trick about studying.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
It's
Let's hear
really
it.
effective. You know, first of all, don't worry about how much time it takes, but you do have to appreciate that it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
I used to tell my class, it's going to take about 6 hours. So every time you see me,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to take 6 hours, 6 times as much time to do well and get an A in my class. And they joke around, and then they're like, Dr. Rod, I wish you had told me that. I wish you said 7 hours. But the real trick to the problem is with education. Here's the problem:
Mm-hmm.
is that there's a metric that you use, like a test, an exam, etc. And there's ways to do well on those things without knowing much.
Mm-hmm.
And but for an engineer, you want to know. And so the bottom line is try to teach the material. So get
Mm-hmm.
ahead enough to help somebody in the classroom who's scrambling, and you'll do well. And I remember when I was an undergrad, a little younger than you, and I would go to back then we didn't have computer laptops, and so we had a center where computers were all in the same place. We had jobs, so once you put your code in, it got printed out at some window, and somebody handed you the result. You'd find out
Yeah.
what you did wrong later. And but I used to just sit down in the computer room. I had a hard time with Fortran, which is what we studied. And but I said I got to learn this stuff, so I just sat down there, and then when people needed help, I'd help them, and I got really good at Fortran. And so but you got to be ahead of the game. You can't be doing that 24 hours before the exam, right?
Of course. Right. 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 Right.
You gotta be on top of it, recognize, make it part of your plan. If you want to understand something, apply it to your life a little bit more, as well as to help others with it at the same time. You'll be surprised, try teaching it. And don't try and teach it where you can just get through teaching it and look good. Teach it like you want them to know the material, not them to think that you're a good teacher.
Mm.
And you'll find that takes you're going to learn a lot when you start teaching. So
I'm gonna
try
put that in my notes. I'm
teaching.
gonna
I
put.
mean, just like helping somebody with a homework problem. Let me see
Mm-hmm.
how it goes and that kind of stuff. So you'll be
I get
surprised.
you. I get you. I'm gonna put that in my notes. I'm gonna make sure I say that when I do
On
my
everybody's
presentation.
notes. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, let's talk a little about NSBE. So, when I was previously when I was on the Desmond, he said that you were really involved with NSBE and you do a lot of behind the scenes work, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit and highlight that a little bit.
Well, NSBE's been on my radar long before. It was like in the 80s, I mentioned, when I was at Iowa. So when I came here, I sort of naturally migrated to becoming uh, the NSBE faculty mentor. This was before Desmond's time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was keeping it alive. NSBE, like any other organization, you know, um, has its ups and downs. I remember at University of Iowa, I just had to like pull the president, the vice president, say, y'all can't do this no more. And I had to
Mm-hmm.
just pull them out and, just start over, and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, we had some of our best work done with NSBE when we worked with an outreach program in Iowa City public school system, helping kids on. We had a tutorial night that we worked on. It still goes on. Was called Mesa, And we used to have, not mixed like everybody else used, but it was our own, multi-ethnic engineering student association. But NSBE was a critical factor in that. And I remember some of the talent that was there, Lisa Kennard. I remember she had got her PhD now. She's off in industry, but we made it happen. And so when I came here, I'm like, we got to make NSBE happen here as well. So, and I got to say, I'm really proud of Desmond because, you can feel it. Y'all coming up to y'all next level. You can feel it, and it's not because you know, without effort from Desmond's part. He plays a critical role in keeping things connected. Because one of the biggest problems with a new board every year is that it can be disruptive. You can lose track of what you did,
Hmm.
and things like that. So Desmond's really critical, and so I'm really proud of him for that. So, but yeah, but we kept it together for a long time. And then you have like Dr. Levister, who started to help you start the uh, the endowment program,
Hmm.
and really critical for you to have some financial support if you start doing stuff in terms of what you're describing, where you're trying to doing more technical work with students, or
Hmm.
helping to work with younger students at the same time. So you can really, there's a lot of benefits. I'm just one of the many soldiers out there trying to make it happen for you guys. I'm not like the kingpin or something like that. I'm just making it happen. I'm keeping it together for you. Desmond's in there, Levister, all your advisory board members. You should be proud of everybody who's taking the time to sit down with you guys and make it happen. And then realize that as you move on, that you might be able to get that back to somebody else. So do that as well. So
I hope I can. That's one of the goals I want this year. I want to have a positive impact as be community. And
yeah,
you may not be the kingpin or the only person that doing pulling the strings, doing all that good stuff, but I do appreciate everything you do and keeping it together because that's really important. Because Nesby means a lot to me. Nesby means a lot to me. That's one of the reasons why I wanted this job. It's not about the money, the paycheck, or the reputation. Because I genuinely want to help the next generation of Black engineers and like put us in positions to have us do well and give us the tools to be successful. That's something I really want to do, and I hope that when the year starts that I accomplish that. You know, but
yeah. As long as you keep it together, make sure you get your. I mean, are you a junior or senior?
I will be a senior this year,
Okay.
so yeah, I'll be a senior this year. But I got yeah, I don't know. Why I'm confused about that, but yeah, I'm a senior this year.
Yeah, it ain't too late. You're good.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess I don't know. I'm 23, so sometimes I had a really little bit of a weird like academic journey because I changed majors. I dropped out of school for a year to like figure out what I was gonna do. So and sometimes I just feel like it's personal. Probably feel like I should be younger. I'm too old to be to be in college now. But
When I was
that kind of is
when I
tempered.
was at Iowa, I had people older than me, so who were undergrad. So it ain't too late, man. Don't even harp on that stuff you're talking about. Just go on, keep it going. You're doing fine.
You're right. It's not that big of a deal. And I
Be
always tell
sweating
myself
that stuff. Yeah.
it's other people, but it's always there, it's always there. But let's get back to the Nesby topic. Um, what advice do you usually find yourself giving to like Nesby students or like even like your students in your P2K program that you think that people should really know?
Well, I mean, there's two different aspects. One's a NSBE, which is sort of a organization, right? And
Oh
then
well,
B2K is all about research, right? So
let's
research,
talk about
I'm not
Nesby
giving you
then.
all. And then NSBE, I always think you should be considering giving it, paying it forward to some others. That's what keeps an organization alive.
Hmm.
Paying it forward. If you're just going to conferences on someone else's dime, you're probably not doing what in the spirit of what NSBE is all about. But if you're giving back, you're working with outreach, you focus on helping like a mentor program, helping first year students do well in the program, that kind of stuff, then you're doing the kind of thing that you need to be doing. So I say give back, man. You know,
I
Pay it
get you.
forward, however language you like to use, but you know, yeah,
I
that's what I
get
recommend
you.
you do. Your podcast is a paying for it concept.
Thank
You're
you.
trying to share knowledge with others, and I like that. Yeah, it's kind of fresh.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope it's a big thing. It's been fun. It's been fun. I've been doing it for about like a month or two, so it's been really fun. So another question I have, um, because program share, so I want to get people in an SB. For students, like I said, who is either new students or transferred, who are not familiar with NSB or hesitant to join, what would you say? What would you say for them to encourage them to join?
I always say you should just join, because you don't really know anything until you try something out, right? And it's not
Hmm.
going to hurt you. I mean, if you come to the point where it's your grades versus NSBE, I got that. But if you start looking into NSBE with the good people I'm seeing in the group this year, I think you're going to be fine. Just you'll enjoy it. It's going to give you some level of a sense that you're not alone, and you'll be able to probably work better. Remember, you got that opportunity too to to help others. So, you know, I say join. Why
Do
not?
Do you have a vision for Nesby in the future? Where do you want to see it, or how, or where do you think Nesby should go in terms of
I
like
think Nesby is on the right track, but I think Nesby ought to at the chapter level is what I
Mhm,
like to see him to be uh, as high level performers as you see at the national level.
mm,
So you see the national level is, for a student organization is pretty incredible. And so you want to make sure that you're representing that in our chapter level as well. So yeah, that's what I
okay.
like to see. I
I
like to
do too.
always see, I'm gonna say it again, I like to see organizations, paying it forward, man. Nothing's gonna happen if you got NSBE and you're only serving yourself. So NSBE members need to pay it forward and helping these uh, students in high schools recognize the potential for engineering and that kind of stuff, is going to be an important aspect. Even if you got to go, I mean, we used to have at AICHE, the American Institute of Chemical Engineering.
Mhm,
Um, I was president of the Minority Affairs Committee for several years, and one of the things that we had started was this program where every week, every time we had a conference, we would go to some school and work with some K through 12 program. Typically sometimes K. We do out projects like you're talking about. We wouldn't do
mhm.
quite Arduino, but we might do like fruit batteries and the volcano thing. You know about that one already and that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
we're just doing what we need to do to make things happen, so the kids could get some aspect of an appreciation of what's going on. You know,
I think I'm gonna try to make that a point, like to get back, because I like that kind of like perspective, and that's something I didn't think about before when I got this position. I know it's part of the job, of course, right? But I don't think I had it as like a forefront. I think I want to make sure that we do that, you know, especially within our members of like whether if we teach them something, they learn something, giving back to like communities that they're in as well, because something I wanted to see Nesby go to or towards was I wanted to see a little bit of Nesby in everything because another reason why I wanted to have a technical aspect of it because when I was joining these engineering orgs, and I know obviously I can't be in all of them, but like well, the ones I was in, like ACM, the solar car, the drone, robo sub. I was usually again the only black person there, and whenever I looked or I talked to other orgs, it was either other only one or none. And I really want to change that to that we have Nesby members in everything, so that can represent us and share what we know and share knowledge that we know to other African Americans or Black people who aren't in Nesby, maybe get them to join. That's something I really want to see. Like, oh, we have a NES member in like this lab doing research, or we have a NES member over here as a TA doing, a study session, or a NES member over here in this club. He's part of the board of like the drone team or ACM. I want to see us have a reach everywhere. Because something that another thing I want to do this year, I want to have a big focus on collaboration because I think engineering is very rarely in terms of professional engineering are you gonna be doing engineering by yourself. You're always gonna be working or collaborating, talking with other people. Even in my internship, when I was working from home I was always talking to other people, supervisors, other people designing and other departments. Like, I can't really talk too much about it because NDA, but like, let's say they gave me a nondescript wash machine. I have to know, oh, what does this washing machine look like, the form, so I know I can get my part to fit in that wash machine, or where do you want it, so I can get this part or the circuit to mesh well with everything else, or not to mess up any other parts of any other department, so that's another thing I really wanted to do with NSBE this year is collab, with like ACM, the dream team I'm having. So that's and I hope that comes to fruition. We're
It's
working on that.
just keep me proud. That's all I'm looking for from NSBE. Just
Well,
keep me proud. Simple.
by the end of the year, we can have another talk, and you can let me know how I did.
Yeah. How y'all did.
Oh, how y'all did? Yeah, yeah. You can let me know how
Don't
y'all
put it on
did.
you.
So,
Don't put it on just on you. So make sure everyone else is involved in it too. Yeah.
all right. Let's 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 finish up. Um, a couple more questions I have for you. What do you find most fulfilling about your work, both as a researcher and a professor?
It's satisfying to both learn and to teach. I mean, and to me, it's and make something happen. You're like you're creating things when you're doing engineering and science, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you're discovering and insights and things like that are all the most rewarding aspects of it, for sure. There's things where you get the last second, like I wonder if it's gonna work, right? Because I'm looking at our model for we call it the free solvent model for describing the osmotic pressure of proteins in solution, and we I remember having to use some independent data to measure water absorption on surfaces of these different proteins, and had nothing to do with my project, but if I was correct, this numbers would have been this,
Mm-hmm.
and I had some people in Houston. Can you tell me what this would be? And they told me, oh, it's that. And I'm like, bam, yeah. So that's insightful. That's a lot of strong rewards associated. You feel like you put your time into it, helping to understand nature a little bit better, or applying what you need to know to help others and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm a big proponent for helping others. So
Mm-hmm.
kind of a part of my training. Our school was always like men for others, like a all boys Jesuit high school. So and
Mm-hmm.
we got, me and my brother got kind of stuck on that. Maybe we should have, many people ignored it, but
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're all about. Men for others. So that's how I roll. So yeah, I'm looking for Nesby to be doing sort of the same thing, although it'd be people for others. You
Mm-hmm.
know, So
Oh, I see that. I feel that. I feel that, and I thank you for your work.
yeah,
I thank you for your work. Okay.
so
Next question.
keep Nesby powerful, man. It's good talking to you.
Yes, that's the plan. That's the plan.
Yeah, I look
All
forward to
right.
your next meeting, you guys. I'd like to come visit you.
Please do. Please
Yeah.
do.
You guys
Ooh,
had these meetings like at the right around the time I picked my daughter up in the past, and so like that ain't happening.
oh,
But
okay.
yeah, maybe we'll make it happen this year.
Okay, well, we can make them happen, or I can make one specifically for you. Or if you want, you can feel free. We can talk about this after. You can feel free to give a presentation or talk to NSB too,
Yeah,
and
I'd
we
love to
can.
give a presentation on. So I did it 2 years ago for
Oh,
NSB.
well, let's do it again.
Yeah,
Let's
we can do it. I mean, two
we can
years
talk
ago it
about
was
that
like
again.
nobody's there now, right?
Okay, let's do it again.
Yeah.
I will work on that afterwards. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, almost done now. For new students that are just about to study here at UCR, what do you think is the best way for them to make the most of their university experience from day one?
I mean, they can go out and experience and try to get involved with like NSB and other organizations, but also remember that the problem with going to college is you only get like 2 or 3 hours of lecture, right? And you're like the rest of the day you don't know what to do with it. But quite honestly, it's a 50, 60 hour work week because
Mm,
once you walk out of lecture, like I said, you got to put 5 or 6 hours in per every hour you see in lecture to perform. So make sure you balance your schedule so you can have both fun and get the job done at the same time. So you can come out as some serious engineers.
I like that. I like that. Is there anything else you want to share with the listeners? Any or anything
Good.
you
I'm
want
looking
to?
forward to seeing what they're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Yeah, what their resume is going to look like over the future.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay, okay. So if anyone wanted to get in touch with you for further questions or interest in your work or wanted to learn how to get involved with your B2K program, how would they do that?
I'm not hard to find. I'm the only African American in the college engineering. Victor Rodgers, look me up.
That's
Usually, if you're
true.
serious enough, you'll find me. They
That's
always do. Yeah,
that's true. That's
yeah,
true. You're not very hard to find.
yeah,
You're not very hard to find.
yeah.
But okay, well, in that case, well, thank you so much. That was great.
Great to meet
Uh,
you. Yeah, I
I
enjoyed
I
talking to you.
I appreciate you came on. I had a great time. I hope you guys at home got some out of that. I had a fun time, and I see you on whatever I do the next one.
Okay.
All right.
All right. We'll see you later.